Espaliers are one of those plants that I've always wanted to have in our garden. They are architectural and sculptural, and they put a different level of depth and interest on a flat wall or along a flat wall. And so today, apart from the regular Espalier apples that I'm sure by now you know I have, but still I'm gonna put a link and a card on this video so you can see what I've been doing on our 4-year-old Espalier apples. Today, I'm gonna show you how I build or how I put together two simple plants. They are pears that I wanted to turn into what's called a stepover Espalier. Before we go to the video, those of you who have liked my videos and have found out that we're doing something good here in North Carolina through Acorn Hill on this channel, thank you for liking our videos. Continue to view and like the videos that we produce, and don't forget to subscribe here on Acorn Hill.
Now, there are three main elements to creating any Espalier or any stepover type or the regular Espalier types. Number one is the planting medium, second is the framework, and the third and more importantly is the plant material itself. Right now I'm showing you what I'm trying to put and create in combining all these growing mediums together. This is to create that good environment for the root ball, for the roots of the plants to grow in. What I have is sifted compost, a lot of perlite, and also making sure I get a lot of drainage, and so I put in sand, grit, and pebbles into the mix. I've also added in Plantone or Biotone with mycorrhiza in it. Mycorrhiza is the substance that we use in order to create that enzymic action. We're having bare root plants planted into this medium, and so we want something that will aid all the roots and the feeder roots of that plant material to grow. After mixing up the planting medium, it's time for me to make and build the framework where all these plants will grow on. And as you can see in the clip, it is a rectangular trellis made of bamboo stakes, all tied in with zip ties. The framework of the trellis is simple: 3 laterals, several uprights, and a couple of diagonals that will really prevent this thing from shaking around. Instead of using the traditional wine jute tie that I use, zip ties provide a lot of stability for this project. Highly important that there are those diagonal supports that I'm also tying onto the framework. This is really to provide that triple strength. As these plants grow, you want something sturdy and firm for these plants to grow along. Now let's go to the plant material. I chose the Keifer pear for this heavy bearing tree and can tolerate both drought and flooding. It's perfect for this project because not only does it give us good flowers and good blossoms during the spring, it can also produce some fruits, which for this type of project I really just need a few. I got them from the store bare root, which means the root ball is wrapped only with shavings of wood, and it will grow well in the pot that I'm gonna put it in. Apart from the root ball, it only comes as a single trunk, and so I got me a pair. What will happen is I had to bend this the night before using these heavy pieces of wood so that when I place it on the framework, it'll be a lot easier to bend them and train them. Alright, moving right along, let me show you what I'm doing and why I had to attach the trellis onto 2 sturdy uprights. As the name suggests, stepover espaliers are meant to be stepped over by the person, by the gardener, by whoever is growing it. They are designed to grow low, designed to grow wide and long, and it really is the perfect planting material with a lot of interest and a lot of architectural feature to it when lining a path or a garden bed. The initial trellis and the support where these plants need to grow on is very important. They need to be strong and sturdy, as I said earlier. So attaching the trellis on these 2 uprights and then training those 2 Keifer pears joined together and going upright, then laterally moving over to the sides and edges of the trellis will be the growing habit and growing direction that we want to train them in. The method that I'm training these trees in is what's called a low horizontal cordon. In other words, a bent over tree. A year-old maiden whip, which is the pair of tree that I have with a single stem, is what I will plant together in the middle of the pot, right in the middle and in between the uprights, the green metal stakes that you see inserted in the pot. After carefully planning exactly where they need to be positioned in the center of the pot, I am trying out how I will bend them so that it can form a right angle near the top section of the trellis. Now, before finally planting the root ball, the bare root plants, into the pot, what I did was pre-moisten them and really pre-soak them for 2 hours in just plain water so that we could get some of those rootlets and some of the major root areas of the plant to soften and absorb some water. And 2 hours later, it is now time to unsoak the whips and time to plant them into the pot. Doing a dry run on how to position them and how you will finally plant them in the pot is very important, and for this case, I didn't have too much trouble having them positioned exactly at the right spot. It was also equally important at this stage for me to start testing how and where to bend the whip so that we don't smash the trunk and we don't shock the trunk on its way over to being shaped. In this case, because the whips that I got are fairly young and tender, it wasn't a problem for me to bend them over and get them into shape. Now it's time to plant the whips in the center of the pot that it will temporarily grow in, which will take a few months before I permanently plant them in the landscape. A friendly reminder, and I cannot stress this enough, drainage is good for this type of planting. So if you feel that your soil is heavy and claggy, add a lot more grit and gravel into the mix and this should solve that issue. As I continue to put soil into this tall pot, what I do is I hold both plants together, hold them firmly, shake it around so that you can get some of that growing medium in and within those roots that you're trying to form up gently into the pot. After settling in the root balls nicely and firmly into the pot, it is now time for the fun bit. We will now bend the whips laterally on opposing directions so that we can form the stepover espalier that we've always wanted. Now, about midway up from the bottom of the root ball, I needed to anchor these two main branches together using twine. What I did was wrap them together, tie them in double knots, and secure them nicely and tied on the bottom rung of the bamboo trellis that we made. Next, I began securing the whips that are near the second rung of this trellis. Now, it may be different in shape and in type of tying down and securing on the project that you will make, but the way this is positioned on the trellis that I made requires that I also tie down the whips on that middle segment of the trellis. Now you gotta pardon me here, guys. I know I'm probably making it sound complicated as it is, but the whips will really dictate exactly where you need to put the ties and the ropes and the strings to secure it nicely on the trellis. Our main objective here is to keep these two whips together and locate a point at which we could bend them at 90 degrees, and from that juncture, this is where we secure them segment by segment along the lateral sections, moving outward and away from the center. As far as cost goes, is it really worth it to do all this trouble just to make your own? I think it is. Each whip cost me at less than $10 each, and for less than $20, you can get your own architectural feature and have fun doing it. And again, if this all sounds like far too much work, which I can understand to some of us, then you can buy them pre-trained for around $50 each. However, I really urge you to give it a go. It is most rewarding knowing that you've done this project from start to finish, and that hopefully in the next 2 years, this will mature and produce not only the blooms, not only the foliage that you like, but hopefully the fruit that you also want for your hard labor. And there you have it, guys, a simple project from start to finish that I hope we all learned something new from. This planting application will stay out here in full sun for a few weeks to a few months. We'll let the roots grow, and one of these days I will give you an update. I'm excited to see how the foliage and how the blooms will come up between this season and into the next. Thanks again guys for joining me in this video. I really appreciate your time. Thank you for subscribing. Continue to like and share our videos to others and click on that subscribe button. For now, this is Louie. I have more videos coming up and it's the growing season, so we'll see you back here in our property in Central North Carolina in Acorn Hill. Bye-bye for now.